Kaiser, your managing broker over at the Northwest office, in case you don't know who the heck I am.
Hey!
Yeah, hey, you know, I gotta tell you something. The stuff that goes on before we start this whole show is pretty amazing. So all of you guys that are at home watching this, you're missing some great stuff that happens before.
Like food.
Yeah, food's one. So, let's get this thing started with some quick comments from Janet, because she always likes to tell her story and it takes her the longest. Janet, please.
I never did that to you, by the way. I can't believe you did that.
That's true. My job is to keep you informed. So if you don't read your newsletter, I'm informing you what's going on. So first of all, tonight is our trunk or treat. And thank you very much to somebody who shall remain anonymous in case he might get in trouble. It's going to be in the back of the building, and we have the whole back parking lot roped off. There's not a car there. So thank you. You know who you are that did that for us. So if you're inviting clients and guests, and they pull up to 8912 in the front of the building and they go, there's nothing going on, let them know it's all happening in the back. Trunk or treat and a food truck. Okay, so Wednesday we have a CE class on contracts. Then Friday is our third quarter leaders luncheon. That's by invitation only. So if you were one of the top producers for the third quarter, you have already received your invitation. And how's it going on RSVP, Shelley?
We'll actually be reaching out to the ones who haven't responded. There's like 10.
So there are 10 of you that are invited,
We will find you.
and we're going to track you down, and we want to honor you. Okay, Sundays, the breast cancer walk. Are you going to talk about that, Sherry?
Yeah, really quick, I can. Well, I want to do where you can.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
Come on, Sherry.
It's your baby.
My what?
It's your baby.
It's my baby. Yeah, I'm gonna pass.
I can talk really fast. Okay, Sunday, October 30th, 7 a.m., Lazy Dogs. So it's really fun. You guys come early. We've got shirts for you, signature, real estate, all the good stuff. What else? Oh, downtown Summerlin, Lazy Dogs, 7 a.m. And I encourage you to come, thanks. I encourage you to come early because they close streets off. But it's a lot of fun. It's a short walk. It's not a big killer. And then afterwards, of course, we do Bloody Marys and breakfast at Lazy Dogs, correct? Correct, guys?
Yes.
Yes. Are you coming?
Yes.
Yeah, see, our brokerage is being there. Shelley, our biggest supporter, and that's what I also wanted to say. Because of Prosperity Home Mortgage Lending and all of your wonderful dollars for the boobs and the wonderful luncheon and everything, we are at $3,470. No, I'm sorry, $3,740. We're just a few hundred away from 4,000. Isn't that great? So that's like the most we've ever done. And thank you all for being a part of it, coming to the luncheon, buying the booze and what?
Great job, Sherry.
Todd?
Aww.
Oh, did you guys hear that? Todd's gonna make up the difference.
I like booze.
So do we.
You know,
I mean, we like to not be all.
I expected to help it, but I expected better of you.
Thank you, Todd. Yay, Todd. Let's do it. It's like 200 or 300.
Tell them $500. I'll make it.
$360 Todd today. Yay, thanks, Todd.
It's like.
And then the only other thing I have is I want to thank the people who volunteered on the horrible day Saturday for the veterans and first responders appreciation. Well, it was horrible because of the wind, but you were out there, and I just want you to know that we really appreciate you. And so after we get through trunk or treating tonight, next thing coming up is our Thanksgiving potluck, and we will be publishing more information on that shortly. We have a committee already working on it.
They did pay their in-laws fees today.
Right, so there are a number of you, despite emails, texts, phone calls, still have not paid your MLS fees. Today is the deadline.
Dun, dun, dun.
If you don't pay today, by the close of business today, we are dropping you from LVR. And then if you're not a member of LVR, we have to send your license back to the division. So please pay your dues today, or your license is going back to the division. That's all I have, thank you.
Well, thank you, Janet. So, let's get Shelley up here for the great mortgage moment this morning from Prosperity Lending. What's the new and greatest stuff, Shelley?
Happy Tuesday, everyone!
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday! Come from Hawaii. Happy Tuesday! So tonight, for those of you who don't know, we are bringing in a truck, a food truck. I think it's called Sliders for something. So if you guys are planning to stop by, just know that we are bringing in a truck, and there's like 40 tickets. So 40 of you and your clients will be able to take advantage of free food, free sliders. So make sure you show up tonight, 5 to 7 o'clock. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about interest rates.
Why?
I don't know. Well, who cares? I care.
Just date it.
Just date it, and marry the right. Okay, so, and somebody who I want to bring up, for those of you guys who do not know, Mr. Jared Penn. Give it up for Jared. You want to come up? Want to talk about rates? Want to talk about rates? Okay. Okay, so he wanted to talk about rates. Where are rates today, Jared?
Rates are still, I gotta talk about this?
Yeah. For the folks at home.
Okay, so rates are still kind of high. The good news is that we feel like we might be past the worst of it. I'm hoping. So there's been talk that there's some pressure on the Fed to kind of ease up on what they're doing. And for most of you that don't know, the number one thing driving interest rates up right now is the inflation in the country. It's not actually the Fed raising their rates. So the inflation has been getting better, and the data that's coming out is lagged from 6 to 12 months. So there is some hope that as we get the next report in November, then again in December and January, the rates will continue to get better. And just even with news on this the last couple of days, the market shifted about 100 basis points for the better, and the stock market's gone up the last 3 days for those of you who have checked your retirement
Can you
account.
back up a little bit?
Yeah.
So it's not the feds that are pushing it up, it's,
The Fed is pushing up their rate to curb inflation, to get it to go down. They're basically looking at an old playbook. The playbook is inflation goes up, the Fed comes in and raises their rates, sends us into a recession. Once we hit a recession, they drop their rates, people start spending again. There is some talk now that they're trying to slow that down and go, hey guys, you don't need to go back to the old playbook. We have boots on the ground that's showing the inflation numbers are improving. So don't go so hot and heavy with raising the Fed rate. And so they're getting pressure from outside sources now to say, hey, slow down. Russia, yeah. Yeah. And so some of the Fed members, it's leaking out now. The Wall Street Journal just had a report on this that they're going, hey, maybe we can ease up a little bit and do 75 in November and only do 50 basis points in December instead of 75 and 75. So maybe it's sinking in now and they're understanding a little bit, and they're going to slow down on their raising and let the inflation numbers catch up, and in turn, hopefully that'll help interest rates.
But that's still a point and a half higher than we have today.
You're talking about what?
The overall interest rate.
Oh, for
Fed
sure.
rate, right? The Fed rate is not necessarily tied
Right.
to the mortgage rate. It's a different thing, but more than likely, you guys all bake your interest rate going up from the Fed in early, and then as it eases up, you guys come down a little bit to make it sound really good.
I would say in a normal year, that's typically what we see. As soon as we know they're going to raise, our rates go up, and then when it happens, it doesn't really affect us too much. But everything right now that we're seeing is based on speculation. So even with our normal rates, we're having to charge points to get those rates. The reason we're doing that is because the loan servicers aren't going to make any money servicing the loans because they know everybody's going to refinance everything in a year from now. So they're making their money up front. So the speculation out there is that these rates are going to be dropping. It's not a matter of if, just when. And what we're hearing now is 5%, 5 to 5.4, within the first quarter of next year through the third quarter of next year is when we can expect that to happen.
And let me remind you folks, that housing values do not drop during recession. They go up. 7 out of the 8 last recessions that we've had, housing values have gone up during recession times. So
that one.
right, except for the bad one, right? When everybody lost their homes. So let's make sure that you use that about getting your property, people that are on the fence about selling, to say, hey, look, this is what's happened in the past. Let's get your house ready, let's put your stuff, your ducks in a row, so that in the beginning of the year, when everybody else puts their houses on the market, yours will be sitting pretty and ready to go, and not the ugly duckling on the street.
See how you wrote that all together?
And most of the homeowners in here, we've all done the same thing, right? When we bought our house, our rate wasn't 2.75 or 3%. Maybe it was 5, maybe it was 4, and then we refinanced when it drops a point and so on and so forth. So we're expecting, and we would, you know, if you're trying to time the market right, you could end up costing yourself more money when the prices of the houses go up. Because I feel like once these rates drop and they get corrected, home prices are going to skyrocket again because we don't have the same problem we did in 2008. There was too many homes for not enough buyers. We don't have that problem today.
So I saw this super simple like analogy of this, which for some of my buyers, they were like, oh, that makes sense. I'm trying to get them to convince them or see what the difference is going to be like for us. So when the sales prices are up and the interest rates were down, what happened with demand? It was up, right? We were just there, right? What was the market like for us?
Great.
Crazy?
Great.
Awesome? Was it awesome?
It was awesome.
You thought it was awesome? Okay.
They got money.
Money and nervous. Okay, so when the sales prices were up and interest rates were up, what happened to demand? Went down. What was the market like? What's the market like for us today?
Pretty fantastic.
Sad?
It's a struggle.
Great, another great, just coming on hand over fist over here. All right, so if the sales prices reduce, go down, interest rates go up, what's demand gonna look like for us?
Squiggly line.
Better?
Squiggly line.
Better than this?
No.
Greater than or less than? This new prices. Lower. Okay, what do you think the market's gonna look like for us?
Squiggly line.
It's going to go down.
Squiggly line? Okay, like this? Not quite sure?
Well, and that's true because it does fluctuate as those
Yeah.
are happening.
What happens if sales prices go down, interest rates go down, what's gonna happen to demand?
Demand goes up.
Demand's gonna go up, what's gonna happen to our market?
Go crazy.
Gonna go crazy, are we gonna be happy campers at the time?
No.
So this is what we're heading into right now, right? And this is very fitting for the database management, because right now, what should we be doing?
Selling houses.
We should be selling houses, absolutely, but if you're not selling houses because you're here, and this is where we're at, and we're about to head into this market, prospecting, managing your database, doing open houses all day long, getting all your lead gen stuff,
Go to Hawaii, Chris.
go to Hawaii.
There were 7 open houses sitting around my hotel.
Exactly.
You visit them also, now you have to tax deduction?
And I think all of the indicators, like Jared was mentioning, that the indications, or the indicators are showing that rates are going down, and we're at 5% seems to be the number. We almost hit the 8% range. You know, what do you think, Sherwood?
Unemployment has to go up
In order for rates to go down?
in order for a recession to hit. If unemployment keeps remaining exactly where it is, it keeps dropping at 3% instead of 7%, the Fed's going to see this as their adjustments are not strong enough, and that 75 bips is going to happen in the next quarter, in the next raise. So whatever the unemployment numbers are, come out in the first week in November, you can predict what the rates are
Are
going to
you
go.
saying we should all apply for unemployment?
We're unemployed every morning.
I did, I said no!
But we're unemployed every morning, right? We all wake up unemployed every day.
Well, we all start every day with 0.
Exactly.
We're off with
You
some.
do, yeah. All right, any questions for Jared or myself? No? Okay, well, yes.
What is the interest rate today?
We are in the 7 still, yeah. So, and I think we saw a little bit of a rally today, but we see it dip a little bit, but 7, 7.25.
You should say like the lucky 7.
Lucky
The
7s.
lucky
The
7.
lucky 7s. We're in the lucky 7s today.
Well, yeah, because the Dow Jones is 31,777, right?
There you go. Lucky 7s.
Check out.
Yes.
What would you say is a healthy interest rate is today? Not today.
Healthy interest rate?
It's the
I think it's really
It
gonna,
was super low. I'm not sure it was very low. What is?
oh,
I think it was in the
Five, yeah.
Yeah.
Five.
yeah. Yeah, because I mean, when I got into business, we were like decades ago, 6, yeah.
Funny, that's healthy,
Yeah.
and we're only a point above that.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
Everyone
that's
freaks out.
Yeah.
Because of those new ones, that's why, it's like,
Yeah.
it seems so massive.
Yeah.
But when we had our 10 and 12% interest rates on our home, and we refied to 8, wow.
Yeah.
That we were so excited, so.
The average sales price was 130,000 versus 400.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's just like gas prices. If they're $6 a gallon and they drop it to $4.89, they're feeling really good about life, don't you?
Yeah.
So what's happening on assumptions and stuff for all those low interest rates as we get into a higher?
That's a great, so assumable loans would be your VA and your FHA loans. You have the ability to assume a mortgage based off of whatever the seller's interest rate is at. The difference is you have to cover the gap, right? So if they happen to have a loan amount of, say, $400,000 and they want to sell it at $450,000, you can assume the loan at $400,000, but you have to cover the gap from where the sales price is at. But it does allow you, I mean, for sellers, if you're looking to get them to list a house today, that is a great incentive for them to, if they have an FHA or VA loan. Even some conventional loans are assumable. Most of your Fannie Freddie are not, but some of the non-conforming
Cover the
stuff,
gap with the second mortgage.
you could if it's
Or
really
seller.
up to you. Seller,
Yeah, because
definitely some different ways for you to structure that, but you do have to go through the servicer to approve that loan directly through the assumption process. It wouldn't come to us. Yeah,
Because it's not a new loan.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, you have a question?
Yeah, so in terms of like buyer, or like possible buyer education, what's something that we can do in like a condensed format? Because as I'm cold calling, I'm realizing that I get that a lot, like the interest rate, like pushback. But a lot of the times I feel like they don't even really know what that means. They're just kind of like parroting what they hear on like.
Sure.
Can I answer that really quick?
Yeah.
Don't answer that on the phone. That's the first thing we'll talk about when I see you today at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Because the problem agents have is they try to give everyone information over the phone, and you talk the client into or out of the service you're trying to get them to give. And so the whole point of the conversation was for you to get an appointment to talk with them, so that you could bring Shelley or Jared into the meeting to talk with them about interest rates right there. I mean, that would be a better way to do it than for you to try to handle it over the phone.
And you can make this great illustration of smiley faces, squiggly faces, arrows up and down to let them understand. I also think like, hey, is interest rate more important than a payment? You know, and getting them to understand that, because really, if the rate's 3% or the rate's 7%, you still have to afford a payment, right? So I think that would be what Chris is saying, Brian. Yeah.
Regarding assumable loan, what would be the way to do it? You have someone qualified, and the person, how to do it?
Same process in qualifying for a mortgage. It doesn't change anything at all. They have to still be able to debt to income ratio. So they would go directly to the servicer of the seller's mortgage and have them go through the process of actually assuming that loan. So if you are listing a property today, I would have your seller reach out to their servicer, so their banks, their mortgage statement will say who to contact and ask them for the process to do an assumption loan or to assume that loan. And they'll walk them through the exact process so that you guys, if you're listing the house, you know exactly what that process will look like for a buyer coming in. But it is full qual. You'll not see a bank statement type qualifying. You will not see, 1099. It will be a full qualifying type program.
All right, any more questions? Well,
Thank you.
thank you, Shelley. Now, for the next part of our program is some wants and needs. Anybody have any wants or needs? Wants or needs, going once.
Real estate related?
Shelley, Chris, you can lose some weight. Give them the microphone.
I was having vacation food.
Is your foot okay still?
And Tom's so thin and trim.
Yeah.
I know. That's why I'm behind the podium today. I'm starting
I
the
still
show.
have this condo, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. We've lowered it to 245, 890 square feet. It's Durango and Flamingo area. It's a great location. It's owner occupied only via FERPTA. He's not a citizen, so trying to be, but he's not yet. Anyway, so please find me a buyer.
And next.
Joe?
I have two actually for Kawai Group listings. We have 8131 Tone Street at the 89123 zip code. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath. And then 10521 Giant Cardone Street, 89179, 4-bed, 3-bath. And that one is going for 515. It's 2,525 square feet. So if anyone has any potential buyers, please let me or Maria know.
Very cool.
And we have, that listing that went up last week. Yeah, when was it last week? 300,000, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,024 square feet. Great for starter home or investment, it's Nellis and Lake.
Anybody else?
All right, so let's get into some meat and potatoes of this meeting. We got Todd and Chris.
Meat and potatoes, is that what you
Meat and potatoes. So, look, we're gonna talk about databases, right? You know, what the heck is a database? Does a database have to be in a computer? You know, because when I started, I used, 3x5 cards and a telephone directory that I had personal love, right? So, Chris.
Michael Phelps.
Why don't you start-
I can't take credit for it.
My goodness gracious.
Go ahead.
It's so true, though. So, Chris, what type of databases do you?
So it took me about 10 years to realize the worst thing I can do in real estate is just kind of fly by the seat of my pants and hope that transactions were just going to happen. And so like every real estate agent in the marketplace, I didn't have my database in one place. I had it on an old computer. I had it in my Palm Pilot. Mom, you still have your Palm Pilot?
Oh my God.
I had I had my LDR, it works. I had my LDR calendar booklet that they gave you during orientation, and the back of it was clients.
Let me apologize for your son. He's on you hard today. I'm so sorry.
Thanks, Todd, I like you best.
But I really, and I had some flashcards and some business cards, and I, like everybody else, someone would give you a business card, and you just sit in that part of your desk drawer and latch them all together, and it was really nothing. And so what I had to do, I had a coach that came in and said that I needed to coordinate myself and get everything in one place. And so I took all of those different pieces and I put them into one single spreadsheet. And then I realized that I just had 400 or 500 names that didn't really mean anything to me. So I took that spreadsheet and I had to start over at the beginning, and I said, who are the 50 most important people that if I needed money today, I would call them. And so I started out with that 50 people. And then I took the next 50 and the next 50. And I had to work myself up to get at least 200 people in that database. And then what I realized is that if I go to my Facebook page, my Facebook is full of realtors. And only 3 of them have bought a house from me. And so, that's true, realtors have been a very good source of business for me because there's a lot of agents that work part-time and they're not full-time real estate agents. And so it's funny, I actually got referrals off of that from Facebook. And so I started working a database of realtors that lived out of state and a database of realtors that were here in Las Vegas. And so I broke those all up and I had them in separate places, but I had to kind of make it extremely simple and I had to put them all into one spreadsheet. So I'm a spreadsheet guru. I love my spreadsheets. I look at them every morning, and so I have one with tabs at the bottom, and it's my 200 people, which is about 289 people right now, and then it has my local real estate agents, and then it has my out-of-state agents. Now the reason I tell you that is when I got into a CRM, which I know we're going to talk about later, you can't work with a good program if you don't have your data someplace where it can be uploaded. And so I had to kind of get myself coordinated. My database was the best when it was on index cards. I know that sounds horrific.
No.
I know that you're thinking, wow, why? But I had a stack of index cards, and every single day I had to come in and make 20 contacts, so I would go through enough cards until I spoke with 20 people. And I would take the card and I would put it on the bottom of the deck, and I would continue to go through it, and it worked for me for a long period of time.
How about you, Todd? What's the question?
How did you start using database? How did you go from nothing to something that works?
Messenger vision? Well, I think just like everybody else, I mean, I realized that there were a lot of people out there that I was not staying in touch with, and I needed a more systematic way to be able to stay in touch with people over time. And so there's lots of different databases, there's lots of different choices. I mean, Chris and his cards, that's a very common way to do it, actually. I mean, Gary Keller started out with a shoebox full of cards, and he would just move them to the back of the shoebox every time. So there's lots of stories out there about how that happens. But I think the challenge with a database is, A, you have to wrap your mind around what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. I can share with you right now everything that I do with my database. I've got 18,000 people in there. We work it relatively hard. And I could tell you all the things that we could do, and I would overwhelm you, and you would walk out here and go, I could never do that, I'm not going to do that. And so everything you would have heard today would be for naught. So I think what you have to understand about databases is there's going to come a time when you realize at a very high level that this is a business. And when you come to the realization that this is a business and it's no longer just for fun and I make a little bit of side money, you'll get more serious about a database, because every single business out there, there isn't a single business out there that doesn't have a database of some sort. Who did you get an email from this morning that you got it from yesterday? Who was it? Zillow. Anybody get one from Home Depot? Every day. Home Depot. They got the best savings in the world every single day. That doesn't come from some guy sitting behind a computer going, oh, let me send Todd an email, right? It comes out of the database. Every single company that is running a business like you run, and they realize that they have a database. And so until then, this will all probably just sound like a bunch of wah, 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 wah. But the reality is when you have a business, when you need to keep track of what's going on, you're going to get a database. You're going to figure out what works for you. And I figured that's when I got mine, was I figured out that, just like Chris, I had a whole bunch of things laying around. I knew a whole bunch of people, but I didn't share with them this cool little chart, right? I mean, this right here, if you didn't take a picture of this, and you don't intend to send this out to your database today, which, by the way, some of your databases are sitting in front of you on your desks. They're called cell phones, right? Everybody you know that matters to you is in your cell phone, and you can take a picture of this and go, hey, this is the coolest thing I've seen at my meeting today, and leave it at that. And they'll reply back and go, what is that? Oh, that's exactly why we should get together and talk. I'm going to stop by at 2 o'clock tomorrow. We're going to talk about that chart. So that's when I figured it out. I needed to run a business that was going to make me money consistently in the up and the down, and a database was a way for me to do that.
So, what I'm hearing is that you can either cold call people you have no clue and get a bunch of hell no's and quit calling me.
You should do that anyway.
Or take some time and call the people that might know you, like you, and trust you, that's in your database, and just become top of mind.
So my parents were both real estate agents, my mom and my stepdad, so I didn't have an easy database, right? And so I got into business when I was around, I don't know, a couple of years ago, 20. And so 20-year-old kid, I actually grew a goatee so people would think I was older, because, yeah, that's why I'm growing a beard now, people think I'm wiser. But the whole point was I didn't have a really big database, or at least I didn't assume that I did. And what I didn't understand is that I had just gotten out of school with a group of people. By the way, Angela and I went to school together. Her family was one of my best clients until she got her real estate license, damn. But I didn't realize all of the people that I went to school with were all contacts that should have been in my database. And so the easiest thing for a new agent to do, and I see it with every new agent I've ever worked with, is they want to kick away the people that they already know. They want to kick away their family because I want to bug them, and they'll think that this is a gimmick. And they want to go out and meet brand new people, right? They wouldn't meet brand new people before they got into real estate, but now they got into real estate, now they want to go meet brand new people. And so how do you do that? You cold call, and you do open houses, and you door knock, and you meet these random people you have no connection with. And that's what most agents are building their database from. And it took me a little while to connect the point that I had 32 kids in my graduating class of my high school. 32, right? 12 of us had gone all the way from first grade to 12th grade together. And those 12 people, 4 of them have been the best real estate conduits. I don't say clients because not all of them bought from me, but have been the best real estate conduits for me because they connected with people all over the valley that provided my business. And so one of the things that I think that most people miss about a database, and I like that Todd said it, I have 25,000 emails in my database of contacts. That's not my clients. That is just a group of people that I send information to that hopefully one day one of them pops up their hand and says, hey, I'd like to learn more about that. For me, I call it my sphere of influence. Those are the people that I center myself around, and then Todd has the same thing, for my past clients and my people that I care about, where they're at. When someone pops their hand up in this group, they become part of my other group. And they're there for a period of time until I either sell them something or I kick them out. When I was running for board offices, when I was running against Tom, I got all 12,000 realtors at that time in the MLS. I uploaded all of their emails into a database. Then I was able to send out my flyers, which I kept crashing my email doing it. You know, Yahoo didn't work as well as I thought it would. But I kept sending out my flyers, and I would get all of these people that would contact me. And I started thinking, I was like, man, what a great place to send my listings. Because you see it all the time, right? You have that spam email that you give everyone in real estate, where they send all of their flyers, and you never read those flyers. You could do that yourself, and all of the information's in the MLS right now. And I didn't know that until I heard it.
So it sounds like you have several different databases that you maintain and keep up. Same thing with you, Todd?
Yeah, so I think that your database, I think it's one big thing, but it's all broken down into different departments or compartments or boxes or however you want to look at it, different buckets. There's a CRM out there that uses buckets, and then you put your people in the bucket that you think they belong into. So yeah, there are, and you, by the way, we'll talk about buckets. I would use that CRM, but you treat each bucket differently. That's the key to having your CRM, to having your database broken down into compartments, is each compartment is treated differently. Chris just mentioned that the people that are in his sphere are the people that he surrounds himself with, right? And the other 25,000 people are just people that we're sending information to that might raise their hand and go, well, wait, what does that mean? And then we have an opportunity to meet with them. Because, by the way, can anybody tell me, why do we have CRMs? Why do we make phone calls? Why do we go door knocking? Why do we do the things that we do as real estate agents to generate income? Why do we do them? There's only one reason why we do all of those things. What is it?
To ask them to do it.
Okay, to add them to the database, you should definitely do that. That's not the reason you should be doing this. Because you can add people to your database every single day, all day long, and nothing could happen. So why do we do what we do?
Pipeline business.
To create a pipeline? Okay, we are creating a pipeline, but why do I get on the phone and call 20 people a day? What's my goal? To set appointments. That's it. There's no other reason. Guys, if you're making phone calls for any reason other than to make an appointment, you're really just kind of wasting your time. You're not spending time in your business at that point. So each bucket that you have in your database is treated differently. Like I have, here's how I look at my database. Do you want me to, yeah, please, am I answering the question though? I don't remember the question anymore. Let me tell you about my database. Here's how I envision my database. There's a whole bunch of people in my database. And for me, they have to earn the right to get to talk to me. People look at their database like, these are the people I want to go talk to. I have the opposite outlook of that. Mine is, these people have to do something to get a right to spend time with me. And so they don't, if they're in this bucket, they have a zero chance of ever meeting me, talking to me, or getting to know me, or having anything to do with real estate, unless they raise their hand and go, I'm buying a house in the next 30 days. They get to jump from this bucket to this bucket. And these are the people I'm spending my time on. And what I'll tell you is that agents spend way too much time trying to get hold of that one person that they've never met that's going to buy a house because they heard somebody say at one time that happened to them, and they ignore the people that matter the most. I have 10 people in my database that I call influencers. They're the people in my database who influence people around them more than I can. And I spend my time with those 10 people. Every week I have a conversation with those 10 people, never about real estate, by the way. But every week I call them and I have a conversation with them, or I stop by and drop off coffee, or I show up at their house, or I do something for those 10 people so that they know who I am. Because they influence more people than I do. And that's where a lot of my business comes from. So it's going to be broken into buckets, it's going to be different places, and you're going to treat them differently. I think that's the key for me, is I treat different people differently depending on what bucket they sit in.
So let's stay on the bucket thing to help some of those that are not really seeing this yet. What kind, you call them buckets. I mean, I'm sure they're labeled something, right? Like hot, warm, cold, not a chance in hell. You know, what kind of labels to help people visualize that do you have for your buckets?
Are labels politically correct nowadays? Are we allowed to do that?
You know what, in databases they are.
Okay, so my sphere of influence, I believe that everybody knows certain people who know them, like them, and would do business with them if they needed to. Those are the three criteria to be in my sphere of influence. They know me, they like me, and they would do business with me if they needed to, right? That's my sphere, that's one bucket. That's who I send every single trunk or treat, paper and pancakes, every Easter event, every client appreciation party. I send invitations to all of those people, to every one of those. By the way, I don't send them out to the other 17,000 people or however many there are that are in my database. I only send that to the people that I know are in my sphere of influence. Okay, so then I do have, in my database, they're called new, and then there's qualified. So a new is someone who's come into our database, we don't know them, we've never talked to them, we don't know what their real estate goals are. That's a new. And once we've made an attempt to get a hold of them, we move them into qualified. Okay, what is qualified? Qualify is we're still trying to qualify them whether we want to spend time with them or not. Does that make sense? We're trying to figure out whether we want to spend time with them, getting them pre-qualified, taking them and showing them homes, meeting with them to sell their home, whatever it might be, they're in qualified. We still haven't spoken to these people in qualified. Once we've spoken to them, once we know what their real estate goals are, once we've decided that we do want to spend time with them, then they'll move into a new category, which could be watch. Watch means that they aren't going to buy or sell in the next 3 months. Okay, so we put them in watch and we set them up on some type of system that stays in touch with them over time, so that in 3 months or 2 months, I always tell people, if somebody tells me to contact them in 3 months, I contact them in 6 weeks. I cut that in half. Did I do that right? Did that right?
No.
No, I got that wrong, didn't I?
6 months, you cut 10 and do.
No, if it's 3 months, 6 weeks, yeah, I did that. I cut it in half. Call me next week. Okay, great. Next week is Friday, I call on Tuesday. Right, because I've had too many times where people said, call me on Friday, and on Tuesday they met another real estate agent and it wasn't me. And that frustrates me, right? So I always cut time in half, whatever they say to do. And then, so yeah, we have different categories, different places, and we know how we're going to treat each of those categories. We know that if you're in new, we've never spoken to you, and I can blow through 100 of those on our dialer in an hour. And so I pick everybody who's new in my database, I click them into the dialer, I click go, I put my headset on, and I sit back and answer questions when they answer the phone. I don't have to go do the research, try to figure out who this person is. Does anybody do that? Oh my gosh, I got this new lead. I got to look on Facebook. I got to check out their IG. I got to call this friend of mine that I went to school with who has a cousin who knows this person. So guys, stop doing the research. Just call them up. I mean, you'll say, how many times have you called somebody and they didn't answer? 30 minutes of research down the drain because they didn't even answer. And next time, guess what you get to do? You're going to do the research again. And then they're not going to answer. Just call them. If they answer, you could be surprised and go, oh, dang, I should have done some research on you. I didn't think you were going to answer. By the way, when you say that, they go, what do you mean? And you go, well, I like to know who I'm talking to, and you can be really honest with people, and they like that. So you're going to break it down into different groups, different categories. Lots of ways to do that. A, B's, and C's. A's are hot, they're going to buy in the next 3 months. B's are going to buy in the next 12 months. C's,
All the crap.
I don't think they really have a chance of ever buying. And your job is to move the C's to B's, the B's to A's, and the A's into houses. It's very simple. A, B's, and C's. You can do 1, 2, 3. You can do red, blue, green. It doesn't matter how you categorize it, but they need to be categorized because the time I spend with my A's is a lot more than the time I spend with my C's. By the way, I don't spend any time with my C's. I let my system do that. Right? But I spend my time with my A's because they're the most convertible. They're the best chance I have of making money next.
So the only thing I want to add is why am I doing any of this, right? So, 10 years ago, I started to realize that because of all of the efforts and things that I was doing, I was very bad at my database management, but my clients still called me. They still called me up on the phone and said, hey Chris, we're looking at selling the house you sold us. Can you come over and help us? And I thought, yeah, sure. And every year I would get a version of that. And as I was in the business longer, had more past clients, that group got bigger and bigger and bigger. And what I noticed is it happened no matter what I did right, and it happened no matter what I did wrong, but it didn't happen consistently. And so I had all of these other things that were out there that were generating leads for me. I had the leads I was paying for. I had the leads for my open houses. I had the leads for my team. But yet this group of people over here still constantly was generating business, and I wasn't really giving it all the love and intention it deserved. And so I started working it by actually making my calls, by giving them attention, by being person to person. And I want to say this because the first thing an agent always says to me when we talk about database is, can I text them or Facebook message them? Sure, but it isn't you, right? It's a conduit of you to them, but it isn't you. I have known Todd for a long time, and I don't know that I would know him as well as I do by text. He's actually not a very nice texter. But he's the nicest guy in the world when you talk to him in person, and I think that we forget, we're not selling houses, we're selling you. You are the commodity that you put out in the marketplace. And the reason is because all of us have people connected between us. Everyone knows 25 real estate agents, not very successful real estate agents, but everyone knows 25 agents. And the question is, why do they choose you over the others? And it's because of that connection point. And so when I started to realize that I could be a crappy real estate agent, I could do a crappy job, but as long as I worked with a group of people, every year I'd have business while other agents didn't. And if I became a better agent and I got more of these people, I'd get more and more and more of my business. And so that's what led me to create My Buckets. The other thing I noticed is that a big chunk of my business, probably because of my board affiliation, came from agents outside of the state. Best call in the world that you can get is a real estate agent says, hey, I have a client that's moving to Las Vegas. Would you help them? Well, let me think about it. Yeah, okay, I'll help them. And so not only did I say yes, but I went out of my way to pay them such a high referral that never again would they ever question who they're going to call in Las Vegas to send a referral to. But I'm not going to sit and call 400 people that live across the country every single week. What am I going to do with these people? I'm going to provide them with information about what? Las Vegas and the investment market. I'm going to arm them with things to go to their database of 300 people and tell them about buying an investment property in Las Vegas, because they know when they sell a house with me with that client, they're going to get a pretty high referral fee. So it's a business win for both of us. It's the same thing I do here in Las Vegas. Believe it or not, in my database, I have 360 local Las Vegas real estate agents that I work for business. They don't do business full time. They got their real estate license on the side. They usually have luxury properties that they don't want to sell themselves. And the whole thing was, by putting them in my database and being connected with them and working with them and just supplying them with good information, I have actually turned that into a business source. That's my database.
So, Chris, you start off with your spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, and have everybody in there. And then from there, you take that and you upload it into a system.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the systems that you use it. I'm pretty sure probably both of you use different systems because you think differently.
Yeah. And I think we both got there the same way. So when you start off in real estate, you have champagne taste with beer money, right? And so I started out, all those things I talked about, a spreadsheet and flashcards are free. You can get 1,000 flashcards at Amazon for about $50.
They're nice ones.
They're nice ones too. So all of that was really easy. It was really easy for me to put that together. It was really easy to put it in a spreadsheet, but it didn't do all of the cool things that all of these new systems did. And so I like to be really cheap. If you've ever met me, I like to find things that I'm already paying for and utilize them as best I can. So I started with some of the board systems. My first one was actually the MLS system. If you remember, it had a client management tool that was part of it, and it linked with your MLS. And what do you do with a client that's out looking at property? You set up a search. And so it seemed like the perfect pairing for me that I would work all of these clients out of the MLS, and I would have them in that database, and I uploaded all of them to it. And what's the first thing that happened? The board got rid of that service. I wasn't on the board when it happened. And then all you could do was then send them properties, and you couldn't use it as a client management tool. And then the association just put in prospects. And if you don't have a database and you don't want to spend a bunch of money, you should absolutely sign up and go to Prospects. It's the best system out there that costs you absolutely nothing.
And they have a class.
And they have classes.
Two-part
Yeah, and they'll teach you how to use Remind while you're there.
Informative.
They are really good. I've enjoyed it. So then what I did is when I formed a team, I've gone through multiple systems. I've used Follow Up Boss. I've used so much shit I can't even tell you what it's called. But what I needed was an all-inclusive system that provided every single piece that I could want to use. And so I vetted all the systems I went through. I wanted the site to have a web presence as well, where it provided a website for my team members, and it provided reverse prospecting site for the team itself, and it did social media, and it put all these things in different buckets, and it sent out stuff without me having to ask, and it was very simple, stupid to use. And so I went to a system called Brevity.
How about you, Todd? What do you use? I use one called Sierra Interactive. I've literally been through Follow Up Boss, Sync, Boomtown. I'm on Sierra Interactive now. It's the Cadillac of CRM. It does everything. It texts, it emails, it has, it literally does anything and everything you want it to do automatically. And be careful with that, because when you get one that does everything automatically, you do one really stupid thing. And I only tell you this because I did it. You remove yourself from the equation. When you do that, it causes harm to your business, because we're in a relationship business, right? So you gotta be careful with what it does for you. Look, there's CRMs out there that cost $10 a month. There's ones that cost $20, $2,000, $10,000. I mean, I know people who spend $25,000 a month on their CRM, including getting leads, right? So you can do there's tons of systems. You can get whatever you want, but what I'll tell you is the $25,000 system doesn't do you any good if you don't use it and you don't know how to use it. You've got to be dedicated. You've got to know that your job every day is to go to work and open up your CRM. So you have to go to work to do that. Like it's no longer I'm just going to kind of do what happens tomorrow and hope I get a deal. I'm on purpose about what I'm doing. I'm going to work in my CRM. I'm going to spend 2 hours doing this. So our goal is we do 2 hours a day of lead generation. That's calling, getting a hold of, or trying to talk to somebody that we've never met that we don't know. Remember my news and my qualifieds, right? 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day of lead follow-up. I do 2 hours a day of people I've already talked to. I already know what their real estate goals are. And for 2 hours, I try to get a hold of them and move them from C to B, B to A, or A into a house. Okay? So if you don't have some type of business plan to go with your CRM, be very careful what CRM you get, because it will just drown you and you'll get so overwhelmed with it you won't even open it anymore. So be careful as you grow through CRMs. Start out with something that's really simple, really easy to do, and you can make it work. And as soon as you make it work really good, you can step it up. It's really easy to step it up, but it's really hard to make any money with something you can't run or understand.
The only thing I want to add to this is, so the interesting perspective for me was when I became a broker, and I had to cycle from just working a database of clients that I was trying to meet to working real estate agents, right? The cool thing was there's a smaller pool of real estate agents than there were of all these possible clients. And so the system that you put in place and the process you can use in every facet of your business as your business grows. So if you're an individual that's doing business on your own and you want to build a team, this same program works for you to go and identify the agents you want to hire and be able to recruit them to your team. And I had all of these small social networks that I was part of, different organizations, different schools that I went to, things that were going on. I made them all micro groups that I would put this same system and process with. I would pull in the data and information for that group. I would personalize the message to them and what they're about, and I would bombard them with information and contact. So again, like Todd said, you can't just put them on a drip and hope to do business. I mean, that's what people do with buyers all the time. They put them on a drip and they drip away. You still have to call them and get personal because you're the commodity.
Do you directly put them on your system, or do you ask for them?
Ooh, good question. So I control the system, not them. So when I get someone in my database, there's a difference between being somebody that I just met, that you gave me your info in an open house, and I worked you for 10 days, and you didn't convert to a client. That person is going to go into this group of people that he calls C's, and they're just going to go as a contact in my database, and they're going to get emails whether they want them or not. The person that converts or says maybe now becomes one of my clients because we're conversing. They go into a separate bucket that now becomes more important. So yes, right?
But you need people from your class, not from the faculty.
I think your question is, do you get permission to put people into your database? Is that your question? Do we get permission?
You don't get permission from an entire group and say, hey guys, I'm gonna spam the hell out of you.
I don't get permission from anybody.
No, you just feel
If
like,
you give me your information that goes in my database has the ability for you to opt out. If you choose to opt out, you can opt out. But I don't go around going, hey, do you mind if I put you in my database? Do you mind? I don't have time.
your question like is, I'll give you a perfect example. I'm a member of a country club, right? It's a Western song. In that club, I sign when I sign up that I'm going to provide everyone with my contact info. Every member has that info. Now the question is, what is every member going to do with that info? Most people are just going to use it as a resource once in a while. When they need something, they may call you. Some other people are going to take the opportunity to use that to say, hey, we just met at the club the other day. I don't know if you remember me. I'm a real estate agent. I'm reaching out because I want to see if you have anyone that needs my service. By the way, I provide a newsletter that I'd love to add you to. It's about real estate in the club. Here's the information. Can I add you to that? That's what I could do, but I already have all of their info, right? With these small social groups that I have on Facebook, people join the group. I have all of their info. And so they made the decision to put it out there. I'm just making the decision to do something with it. No business is going to happen because I send them this amazing email. I mean, I can tell you I've sent 10 million emails. And once in a while I'll get a question that says, hey, tell me more about that. The interaction I have after they ask that question is what puts them in my database, not this amazing email that I send them. It's just a way to get them to raise their hand. That's all it is. Yeah, I talk to everybody that I get in there because, like he said, they finally raised their hand and now we're interacting. The whole point of all this, like you said, is to set an appointment. Some member of my database that's been in there for 10 years calls me up and says, hey Chris, I'm thinking about this rental property I've had for a while. What do you think it's worth? What did that person just say to me? I'm thinking about selling the house as long as price makes sense. Yeah, so I'm going to set up a meeting to get in front of them right away to talk about selling that rental property, but it works the same way. It's just I got to get this group of people to fill it out. I'm going to tell you a story because it happened when I was a team member with him. My business was in a sucky place. It was. When I was in a sucky place and I needed to get some new blood, right? Because I've worked all the turds I had and I had to get some new people out there that made a difference. So I started calling expired listings. Sherwin's gonna love this. At that time, I happened to live in Red Rock Country Club because my parents lived there and I lived at home almost. And one of the things that they did at the club is every member was provided with a member roster, which I knew because you could go to the club and get it. You could get one at home, they sent you one. And I noticed that if I pulled up the club roster, because it had every resident that lived there, and I go to the expired list, which had every expired in the club, I already had the contact info for the sellers that our listings were expiring. And everyone else was trying to find their info. And I realized that a lot of the people, like me, visited the bar at the club. And the odds were really good that we met at that bar. So, Ladies Home expires in the club. $1.8 million house, and that was a lot of money then. And I call her up, and I've never met this lady in my life. And I say, hey, is this Jane? She says, well, yeah, who's this? And I said, this is Chris Bishop from the club. She goes, what club? I said, from Red Rock. I don't know if you remember me. I know we must have met once before at some point. Do you go to the happy hours at the club? She goes, oh yeah, I love those. And I said, then we've definitely been there together. Now, the whole point of this was, do I have a connection point with her? Yeah. So we go on and we're having this conversation, and I said, I don't know if we have met or not, but I noticed that your listing came up as an expired property, and I'm calling to see, are you thinking of listing it with a real estate agent? And she goes, yeah, you know, I'm in the process of it, I'm getting all these calls. I said, who would you rather list with? Somebody that's just out there cold calling you, or someone you're going to see every week at the club?
Some drunk.
Right? The level of bullshit that I had to send it to is amazing.
Wow.
The whole point was I didn't get the listing. I did. This is not a happy ending. I did not get this listing, but let me tell you what I did get. I had an appointment at her house, and I got to meet her, and we got to sit down, and I got the shot to take this $1.8 million listing when I didn't have any $1.8 million listings. And the whole thing was, if I continually did that, which I did for quite a while, I had so many of these opportunities that were put in front of me, and I met so many of these new people. What I had to understand was the value of this was not that listing. The value of this was that lady, Jenny, that I got to meet, who owns $1.8 million properties. And what's most likely going to happen is this agent, probably Sherwin, is going to sell her house,
which he probably would do it right away, and he's gonna sell it in 2 days. The question though is he ever gonna call her again? Because 85% of real estate agents don't work the database for crap. And so if I just stay in touch with Jenny, could I have the next opportunity and the next opportunity and the next opportunity? And I did. She never sold a damn thing with me. But the whole point was she was in my database for a while, and I stayed in touch with her, and I made that connection point. The commodity I'm selling is me, the value I'm adding is every one of them. Every one of those people in our databases have a reach that's further than ours. And if I add more of those quality people, I'm building more of a quality business. Does that make sense? Pat?
Did you ever accidentally on purpose meet her in the club?
Okay, so here's what I did start to do at these happy hours. I know, at these happy hours, I was on much better behavior, right? They had one every week, and you didn't have to be there very long, but what I did start to do, I am not a very natural, not a very outgoing person. I know that's hard to believe, right? But I won't walk up to someone and say, hey, how you doing, blah, 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 blah. But I had to kind of come out of my shell because I've selected a business where I have to put myself out there to meet people. And so, we would go over to the happy hours and things that they were having, and I noticed that for my business sake, I had to put myself out there a little bit more. I had to get friendly with the bartender. I had to say, hey, do you hear of anyone looking to sell their house? Give me a heads up, let me know. But that's the whole point. It's a social networking group that I got involved in of people that were around. I haven't been back to that happy hour in years. But I used it with every single group I moved to because it's a good way to meet people to add to your database. It's a lot easier than an open house, no one comes to, right? And I also want to add this. I was working with this guy when it happened, and the whole point was he shoved me out there to go and meet people. You've got to get more people in your database. You've got to get more people working with it. You've got to get more people that you're talking to. And so I did. And what I realized is, he says, so what business are you going to use? I said, open houses. And he says, great, you got to do like 5 of them a week. I said, 5 a week? That's a full-time job, right? Because I wasn't going to meet anybody at one open house a month that was going to change my life. I had to do 5 or 6, sometimes twice a day, because that's how I was going to meet enough people to put them in my database to make it work.
So let's talk about database maintenance, right? Naturally, people in your database fall out. They die, they move, they sell their house and move away. Lots of things happen to those folks that you have in your database. How do you work on maintaining it and updating it? And 2, how do you replenish those that you've lost? And this comes to your question about the other part on cold calling, right? Go ahead.
Well, it's interesting you ask that question because I'm currently trying to hire somebody to help me do that in my database. So, yeah, it's actually a position that people can actually hold. But as an individual agent, it's part of your business plan. It's part of your day-to-day business. You're maintaining it when you're doing your lead follow-up. You're maintaining it when you're doing your cold calling. Everybody ever heard the term feed your database? You have to feed your database. What does that mean? Feed the beast. Feed the beast. Add people. How many people do we need to add?
Whatever your goal is.
Well, give me a number. How many do I need to add to my database every single day?
5.
5? Okay. So if I work a 5-day week, and I 25 a week, and there's 50 weeks a year because I take 2 weeks off on vacation.
Only 2.
Only 2, yeah, I'm a worker.
Doesn't sound like
Yeah, that's so you've got to feed your database. So the goal is to put 5 people in. Some people will be as crazy to say that they don't stop working until they've added their 5 people. That's their benchmark for the day. They've added 5 new people to their database. Because the rest of it can happen kind of naturally if you have the people in. So that's how you replenish. You can door knock to do that. You can make cold calls. You can get internet leads. You can
Use the database to get you people.
You can call people in your database to find out if they know anybody. I mean, there's lots of ways that you can actually get people to put back in your database. I will tell you that replenishing the people isn't hard. I had a kind of a unique experience recently that was kind of fun. Recently, as in this last week when I was on vacation and I was trying to ignore my phone, I had a past client call me 7 times in the same day. And I was really trying to ignore my phone, and I never answered the phone. Finally, I did answer the phone, and she said, hey, I just want to let you know I got your email about the trunk or treat, and I can't make it. And I was like, did you have not left a message for that? I'm trying to be on vacation late. No, I'm just kidding. So it was just her reaching back out because, look, she doesn't want to buy a house. She sold her house. She actually lives in a different state now. She's never, probably never ever gonna do business with me until one of her neighbors in the state she lives in moves to Las Vegas. So you never get people out of your database unless they opt out, like we mentioned, and that's okay, they can opt out. If they opt out of our automatic system, then we do make the calls to them once a quarter. That's part of our plan, right? We have a system in place for that. So don't worry about putting people in, but your goal should be 5 a day. Every day you should put 5 new people in your database that you've never met, that you don't know, that you don't have their information. So if I'm door knocking and I don't set any appointments, but I get 2 people to give me their information, is that a win? Yeah, because I get to put in my database. Helps me fill my 5 a day. How did you know it was 5 a day?
I just made it up, but I want to tell something that's funnier.
I'm not going to get into mine.
We're out of time almost anyway.
So I want to tell you the aunt story, because this is cool between us. So Todd and I have a team together, aunts, like aunt, uncles, auntie, as they say in Hawaii where I was just at. Todd and I have a team together, and we have a Facebook group, and our goal was to build this whole social network around this Facebook group, right? And so how do you do that when you're in real estate? You put out these flyers about information on the market, you put out your properties that you're listing, houses that you got going on. And so one day, our admin had put out a post about I don't remember what the post was about, and my Aunt Kathy, who is my mom's sister, looks just like her, my Aunt Kathy goes on and posts, "Oh, what a great property, I just love the way it looks." And a couple of comments down, Todd's relative, I think like an aunt for you in a different way, by marriage maybe.
It was actually my Aunt Kathy.
Okay, goes on and posts, "Yeah, that is a really great house, blah, 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 blah." And our aunts start going back and forth on this house. And what's really funny about this is that our aunts know each other really well. And if both of us would layer down our onion even more, he could have ended up with my aunt in his database, and I could have ended up with his aunt in mine. Right? There are ants everywhere, spray for them. The point that when I bring this out there is that we are all pretty connected because we live in the Las Vegas community, and we all have connection pieces with the people that we know that our business could go as far as we want it to go. Now, who do you think one of the top influencers in my database is?
Your mom.
Besides my mom. My mom's actually not an influencer in my database. She's an influencer in her database, not mine. My aunt has given me more referrals than anyone in my database to this day. And there's a chance he could have stolen her from me. I don't know how many referrals his aunt has given him, but it's the same idea back and forth. But it's just interesting.
My goal for 2023 is to steal his aunt. Just so you know. Listen, the biggest influencer in my database, I've known him for 29 years, never bought or sold a home with me until last year. He's my biggest influencer. He owned a company that had 400 employees. I stopped by every single week and took his favorite coffee. And he would say, "Why are you here?" And I would say, "Just to give you some coffee." And every time I would come and go, people would ask the same question. What was the question? Who's that guy? And at first he would say, "Oh, that's my brother-in-law." And then I would say, "No, Joe, I need you to say that's my realtor." And so from then on, "Oh yeah, that's my realtor." And every time after about 6 months, I would go in, he'd walk me out in the shop and introduce me to somebody who was in the need to buy or sell a house. So influencers make a difference. Pick out your top 5 influencers and what people who have more influence on people around them than you do, and be nice to those people. Stay in touch with those people. Stop by and say hi. Have them over for dinner. Do whatever you gotta do to get those kind of people on your side to keep you at the top of their mind. And I will also quickly just say that Chris just made a good point about databases. He's got 25,000 people in his, I've got 18,000 in mine. Do you think any of ours are the same?
Probably not.
Who cares? Like, don't get all caught up in other people might have, this guy's and someone else, who cares? I can win every time because I have a plan, I have a database that works, and I work my plan inside my database, and I'll outwork anybody here because I don't go to Hawaii on vacation, I work.
By the way, you can buy lists of people, and that's easy to do. Okay, so, that was funny, I don't care what you say. Couple of things I want to say. This is a bigger topic than we could ever cover in an hour meeting, and so if you really have database concerns or questions, we have so many great coaches here at Signature that have done it every wrong way that you can you can learn from their mistakes. And so Todd and Tom and Brandon and everybody else, myself, we all would love to help you if it's something you want to do Here's why I'm making it the main focus of my business and main focus of my coaching. At the end of the day, when I'm at the point where I can no longer drive people to see houses, and no one wants to hear me rattle on, the only thing of value I'll probably have with some living people left in it is my database. And it's the only commodity that I could actually trade to another agent and make money from it. The biggest one I've ever heard of is $22 million was the fee paid for a team in Texas to take over their database. But no one paid $22 million for a thought. They paid $22 million for a proven system of business return. People that actually could show that if they called these people and did these things, they return this business every single year. And so I wanted to have a commodity at the end of the day. If I decide to get out of real estate, that my daughter doesn't want to do it, or I have no other family members, that I could actually take this and sell it and make money from it. And so that's why I'm putting as much time into it as I can. One other announcement I have. So you guys saw my email about my Dirty Dozen. I have Chris's Dirty Dozen coaching that is going to be starting. We have our first meeting December 12th. I have 7 spots already filled for the coaching program. So 7 minus 12 is 5. I went to that day of school. If you're interested in that program, please let me know. Just reach out by email. You do have to have a minimum production level to get into the program because it is a very high level training series. We're asking that you've had 12 deals in the last 18 months. But please contact me. I'd love to share it with you. You will never find more fun that you can have with me than those 44 meetings next year. So, anything else?
No, that's it, other than, look, business planning should be top of mind for you all. Databases should be the secondary thing. And thirdly, go out there and make it happen. Yeah, make some people happy by selling them a home, right? We sell homes, we sell houses, your clients make them a home. Remember that? Go out. Have a great day.
Trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat tonight.
Trick or treat.
Don't forget, I will be here. We'll be here. All right. Goodbye, y'all.
Bye.